Is it a fact or merely a carefully planted rumor? Could Jimin's staggering wealth have quietly become a sensitive, emotional subject for Jungkook? And what truth is really hiding behind the smiles the world sees? Don't look away before you decide. Before you continue, pause for a moment and ask yourself this. If you were standing at the top of the world with your closest friend, and suddenly the spotlight began to shine brighter on them in a way no one expected, would you truly feel nothing at all? If this question sparks even a hint of curiosity, make sure you like this article, leave your thoughts in the comments, and follow for more stories that dare to explore what others only whisper about. Your voice matters here, and this story may not be complete without it at first glance. It sounds like nothing more than another rumor drifting through the endless ocean of celebrity news. A headline designed to provoke, to tease, to invite speculation where certainty refuses to exist. Fact or issue? Jimin's wealth said to be a sensitive topic for Jungkook. It reads like a question rather than a statement, and perhaps that is where its power truly lies. Because questions do something that facts alone cannot. They linger. They echo. They settle into the corners of the mind and refuse to leave. And once that question is planted, every smile, every silence, every glance between two global icons begins to feel heavier than before. Jimin's rise has never been subtle, but in recent years it has taken on a new dimension that even seasoned observers did not anticipate. His artistry was always undeniable, his presence magnetic, his influence steadily expanding beyond the boundaries of music into fashion, luxury branding, and global cultural capital. Yet when conversations about his wealth began circulating with unusual intensity, they carried a different energy. Not admiration alone, but shock. Not celebration only, but disbelief. Numbers were whispered, then repeated, then exaggerated, until the idea of Jimin's fortune became almost mythical. And as with all myths, people searched for conflict to make the story feel complete. In that search, Jungkook's name began to surface, cautiously at first, then more boldly. Not as an antagonist, not as an enemy, but as a mirror. The golden magne, the prodigy, the one long viewed as the future incarnate of global pop success. For years, the narrative had placed Jungkook at the center of limitless potential, an artist whose trajectory seemed destined to eclipse even the most extraordinary expectations. So when whispers emerged suggesting that Jimin's financial success had surpassed assumptions, surpassed comparisons, surpassed even Jungkook's, the story shifted. And with that shift came tension, or at least the perception of it. But was there ever real tension, or was it something the world projected onto them? The truth is, no one outside their inner circle knows what private conversations sound like when the cameras are gone. No one knows what emotions surface in the quiet moments after applause fades. Yet fans and observers alike began to read between invisible lines. A pause during an interview. A look that lingered half a second too long. A joke that landed differently depending on who was listening. Suddenly, ordinary human interactions were treated as evidence, as clues pointing toward a hidden discomfort, a sensitive topic no one dared to address openly. What made the narrative even more compelling was its emotional contradiction. Jungkook and Jimin are not strangers bound only by professional obligation. They are friends shaped by shared struggles, shared stages, shared exhaustion, and shared triumphs that few on earth could truly understand. To suggest that wealth alone could fracture such a bond feels both sensational and deeply human. Because money, for all its glitter, has a way of exposing insecurities people do not even realize they carry, some fans rejected the idea immediately, calling it an insult to their friendship, a cheap attempt to manufacture drama where none existed. Others, however, found themselves unsettled by how plausible it sounded. Not because Jungkook would harbor resentment, but because sensitivity does not always equal jealousy. Sometimes it is simply awareness. Awareness that the world is watching, comparing, ranking, and measuring success in cold numerical terms rather than creative or emotional ones. In such an environment, even the most grounded individual can feel the weight of expectation pressing down on their chest. Jimin's wealth, whether precisely quantified or not, became a symbol rather than a statistic. It symbolized how unpredictable success can be, how narratives shift without warning, how the spotlight can tilt in unexpected directions. For Jungkook, whose journey has always been framed as extraordinary, that shift may have felt less like a loss and more like a recalibration of how the world sees him. And recalibration, no matter how positive, can still feel uncomfortable. What if the sensitivity was never about envy, but about vulnerability? What if it stemmed from the fear that people would misunderstand, that they would assume rivalry where there was only growth, competition where there was only evolution? In an industry that thrives on comparison, the idea of one member's financial success becoming a headline invites scrutiny not just of numbers, but of relationships. And once scrutiny begins, it rarely stops at the surface. There is also the question of silence. Neither Jimin nor Jungkook has publicly addressed these whispers in any direct way. To some, silence is confirmation. To others, it is dignity. But silence can also be strategic, a refusal to feed narratives that survive only on attention. Yet paradoxically, silence often amplifies speculation rather than silencing it. Every day without clarification becomes another blank page onto which the public can write its own story. Emotion plays a crucial role here, not just for the artists involved, but for the audience consuming the narrative. Fans invest not only time and money, but identity and feeling into the lives of those they admire. When a story hints at imbalance or unspoken tension, it triggers protective instincts, curiosity, and sometimes fear. Fear that something pure might be tainted. Fear that success might come at the cost of connection. Fear that behind the perfection, there is pain no one wants to acknowledge, and yet, there is another possibility that rarely gets the same attention. What if this entire issue exists more in headlines than in reality? What if the sensitivity lies not within Jungkook, but within a media ecosystem desperate for contrast and conflict? In such a system, friendship is less compelling than friction, harmony less profitable than speculation. A simple fact about financial success becomes an emotional drama because drama keeps people watching, clicking, sharing, and arguing. Still, dismissing the story entirely would ignore the complexity of human emotion. Jungkook is not a symbol, he is a person. A person who has grown under relentless observation since adolescence. A person whose achievements have been dissected and compared long before he had the chance to define himself outside those comparisons. In that context, even a friend's success, no matter how deserved, can provoke reflection. Not bitterness, but introspection. Questions about self-worth, direction, and the meaning of success beyond applause. Jimin, too, exists within this emotional landscape. His wealth, often discussed as if it were detached from effort, represents years of discipline, sacrifice, and artistic risk. To reduce it to a trigger for jealousy does him a disservice. It ignores the reality that success within a group does not automatically diminish others. Sometimes it expands the entire narrative, proving that multiple paths to greatness can coexist, yet the public rarely embraces nuance as enthusiastically as it embraces mystery. And mystery thrives on questions like this one. Fact or issue? Truth or illusion? Is there really a sensitive conversation that happens behind closed doors when Jimin's financial achievements come up? Or is that conversation happening only in the minds of those watching from afar? The emotional core of this story lies in its uncertainty. It invites readers to confront their own assumptions about success and comparison. It asks whether admiration can coexist with insecurity, whether friendship can remain intact under the pressure of unequal recognition, whether silence should be interpreted as concealment or respect. These questions resonate far beyond the world of global pop stars.